All right, everybody, we're going to get this party started. We have a guest speaker tonight. We are here with the Arizona Psychedelic Society, and here to enlighten all of you, we have a fellow Earth traveler, and he is going to come up and enlighten you with his vast knowledge of vibrational things. His name is Joe Decarlo. Come up here, buddy.
Lex, did you kill the music? Lex! Lex!
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Gary, for inviting me out tonight. It's great to be here. I've met a bunch of you guys, some new faces. My name is Joe Decarlo. I just skipped the slide where I was from Phoenix, born and raised native, father of two. These are my children, Skylar and Chase. Wonderful kids. I'm a single dad. Love every minute of it. So on my journey here, you know, I was raised Baptist, fire and brimstone. You know, God loves you, but do the wrong thing, burn forever. And you know, it was very hard as a kid to do anything with the fear of eternal damnation. So I spent a lot of my time in books and avoiding people and bad things until I started to come out of my shell and I started liking girls. You know, I kind of had to, and to cope with all that, I found alcohol and marijuana, which was a great one. My first time smoking marijuana, I remember smoking and then teleporting onto my counter, eating chips, laughing. I was like, what is this? This is great. Experimented with some amyl nitrate. I don't know if anyone knows what that is. Whippets, and I started to notice like these different things made my conscious different, and I didn't know how to put that into terms at the time, but I just was looking for new methods, and one that sounded amazing was magic mushrooms, right? Like, so the first time I got magic mushrooms, I'm pretty sure somebody just bought them from the store and sold them to me. We're not magic at all. But the second time they were, and I found golden teachers. And I was at a house party, I ate 2 grams of golden teachers, and I did not expect God to be at that house party, but he was that night. And it kind of changed my whole reality and the way I thought and who I was as a person. And every 6 months religiously, I would take mushrooms to just remind myself not to take this all so seriously, because it's not. We kind of make it really serious, and the mushrooms kind of remind you to stop doing it. So these golden teachers were my original psychedelic teacher. I experimented a little bit with LSD a couple times. It was right when the internet was coming out, and like, ooh, I can look at trippy shit while I took LSD, and I had some experience with it. Wasn't my jam at the time. I had a girlfriend woke me up in the middle of the night. She said, "Here's hit this salvia." It was a very, very dark experience, but I think I'm going to give it a try again because my good friend Chris, you know, recommended that I do. And that's kind of, I'll get into that later about, you know, sometimes the first time isn't the time, you know.
Or the second.
Or the second, possibly, yeah, maybe not the second. I might call it, yeah. I'll give everything one more chance, a second try, right? And then in the late 2000s, I got involved with ecstasy. These particular pills, Pokeballs, were amazing. I've never really experienced ecstasy like it since, but I was just using it to party and make money, and it wasn't really for conscious expansion. So my life, I graduated college, I started a family, I got a job, and that all kind of didn't feel like where I was in the right spot, and I was led astray. And I was looking for answers, and I remember Joe Rogan talking about DMT in like 2017. And I was like, I have to try this. I have to get a hold of this. And it was very hard for me to do. Like, I couldn't find it. It was, you know, I knew a lot of people who sold ecstasy and mushrooms and marijuana, but DMT was challenging. And by a stroke of luck, I had a roommate, and she started dating a guy who was like, I can get DMT. So if you don't know what DMT is, dimethyltryptamine, it's these crystals right here, extracted from, actually all plants and animals contain DMT. This particular, most DMT is extracted either from acacia, Mimosa hostilis, or chacruna. I don't know where the first one I got was from, but I traded a very large quantity of marijuana for a very little bit of DMT, which I took Syrian rue with it. I drank a tea, and it's called pharmawaska when you do it this way. So my first experience with DMT, I remember drinking the Syrian rue tea, waiting about a half hour, and then ingesting the dimethyltryptamine with lemon juice. And it was really beautiful. So like my floor was like, I could see these like vibrational patterns, this energy running through the floor, like a mycelial network that was glowing. It was really beautiful. And then my popcorn ceiling, just regular old popcorn ceiling, was the most beautiful piece of art I've ever seen in existence. I got like superpowers from it. So I was just laying there, and like I had a stereo in the other room, and it was playing pan flute music, and all of a sudden it was like the speaker was next to my ear. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And then my roommate was this Russian girl, and it was around Christmas time, and she was coming up to the door, and I could smell the Russian food before she opened the door. I was like, this molecule is crazy. This like gave me superpowers. So very interested, started doing research, and I accidentally posted a post about how to extract DMT on my Facebook, and a friend of mine who's here tonight, he reconnected. We had been estranged for a long time, and we met up and had a lot in common after 20 years of not seeing each other. And basically, he was well versed in psilocybin mushrooms. He had great expertise on those. And he invited me out. He's like, hey, you want to go to this waterfall and eat acid? And I hadn't eaten acid since I was a kid, so I was like, sure, why not? So we go to this waterfall. It's called Civicu. I don't know if anyone's ever been there or not. Beautiful place. But this particular day, the road was closed, and the natives there, the White Mountain Apache, said we could hike the trail to the waterfall, which was a couple miles. So we start. He's like, hey, here's the acid. And I take it. We made it about a quarter mile till we went down to the river, and I'm sitting there, and I can see how Dr. Seuss got every one of his books. And there was just, the whole day was just this very mystical feeling experience, this expansion of consciousness that I would always recommend doing LSD in nature after that. There's something about being in the presence of nature with that particular molecule that it's just something else. So basically that night was like, my whole life was shaped from that night. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to start a community. I wanted to spread medicine, and I've been working for those goals ever since, and I've never been happier since that moment. So my next stop was ayahuasca on the journey, and I went to my first ayahuasca ceremony, and the shaman was not great, and the medicine was even worse. And like everything, I didn't want to give it a second try. I spent all night vomiting with no experience. Like, why would I ever want to do this? And my friend convinced me, hey, I found this really great lady. Come try one more time. So I did. I don't know if anyone's ever sat with Demi Faraday. She's a local shaman that does ayahuasca. And I remember going to Demi's house and drinking aya, and it was like I was reborn. Like the whole night, it was such a deep spiritual experience where the medicine talked to me. I had done a lot of medicines, but none of them had ever spoken to me like ayahuasca did. It called me on my shit, but loved me, and it was just this life-changing experience. And I knew I was really called to DMT, DMT being the active ingredient in ayahuasca, combined with the ayahuasca vine. Yeah. So the ayahuasca vine mixed with the chacruna plant, which contains DMT, it's an MAO inhibitor, which allows DMT to become orally active. Without an MAOI, you could eat spoonfuls of DMT and nothing would happen to you. So my next stop on my journey with the psychedelics and the DMT was my friend procured some DMT. He's like, hey, do you want to smoke it? So freebase. And I took my first hit of DMT, and I couldn't breathe. And it was this lesson to just surrender, and I did. And once I surrendered, it was this feeling, not of deja vu exactly, but that I've experienced that particular moment in an infinite amount of times. It wasn't just that one time I've done this. it is endless amounts of time that I was in that moment. And my friend looked like this god with like the 80 arms, so if I incorporate that picture. So a couple weeks later, I go visit a friend in Texas, and he takes me over to another friend's house, and he's like, we're eating mushrooms, we're drinking a little whiskey, and then he's like, hey, do you want to smoke DMT? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'm a pro at smoking DMT, one time. And so they're passing around the bowl, and there's this Radiohead song, I still can't ever remember the name of it, but I lived a lifetime as another person, and it was like 1960 California. I was a beautiful young woman, very much in love, and I died of cancer, and I came out just in tears, like what in the heck was that? But and then I found out that it was DMT, but it was something called changa. So for those of you not familiar with changa is DMT soaked in herbs with an MAOI inhibitor such as ayahuasca or Syrian rue, which causes a different effect than the straight DMT. Some compare it to smokable ayahuasca. I'd say that's a good analysis. Not, it's a little bit in the middle there. So after that, basically became obsessed with DMT and making like a bathroom bootlegger, was making jugs in the bathtubs to extract DMT from the acacia tree. It wasn't a very effective method, but I had a friend who showed me how to do it. I'm a very visual learner. So we're making batches of DMT in the bathtub. And it was messy, and but a great experience. And anyone who ever wants to know, I love to share the knowledge of how to extract DMT. But then with DMT particularly, it's an interesting molecule because it has an aversion to fire. Once flame touches DMT, it disintegrates. And so there's a little bit of complication smoking it, and everybody's got these devices and things. And I was like, okay, well maybe I can make it more effective and efficient with vaping it. So I went down this road of trying to make vape pens, and spent about 6 months trying to perfect a recipe, and it was not going well, and I about drove myself crazy smoking that much DMT every day trying to figure it out. Eventually I did. I got it. I figured it out, and so I'm very natural. I'm a natural person, and if you've ever smoked nicotine vape or a marijuana vape, they're using a medium called either propylene glycol or vegetable glycerin. And I kind of wanted to eliminate those as lab-made chemicals. And so, I like to experiment, and I try, my research led me to terpenes. And for those of you who don't know what terpenes are, they're the essential oil of a plant. So each plant has its own essential oil. Some share an essential oil, like a citrus tree contains, whether it's lemon, lime, orange, 95% about terpene is limonene. And limonene is something that is the most common used essence in the world because it's in almost every cleaner as a non-polar solvent. It gets the things up that soap can't. It also can be used to extract DMT itself. So I was thinking maybe use these oils in place of the lab-made substances, and I quickly learned that is way too much terpene. You can't do that. But in my experimentation, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get 2 different terpenes from marijuana. So I got one on the left is a strain called Alaskan Thunderfuck, which was my favorite as a child. That actually went extinct. I don't know what this new one is, but they call it ATF. And the ATF was sativa, so I just bought a random one that was an indica at the store that I was at, called Chronic Thunder. So I made 2 pens with each of these different terpenes. And I quickly learned that, yes, it was too much to smoke, but each terpene created a completely different experience, visually and internally. One was slower, one was faster, one was blue, one was black. And I learned this, and it was very interesting to me. And around this time, I was going through a great, I don't know if you call it spiritual awakening or whatever, but stuff about manifestation and vibration and frequency. And I don't know if anyone's familiar with the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto. Yeah, okay. So Dr. Emoto, basically, he said different words and flash froze water, and this is just a small sample size of what he did, but the positive ones made these beautiful imagery, the other ones not so much.
They're like more symmetrical.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so, and the scientific community calls Emoto a quack, right? So, the mainstream science does not observe this man's work. So, about this time, my mother's like, hey, we gotta do an experiment. So we do this rice experiment with rice. And these are 3 bags about a month into the experiment. So every day, we made these 3 bags, love, and I would give this, the whole family would give this bag our love. Every day we'd give it. And this rice was as white as the day it was cooked. This bag, we would like, fuck you bag, put our anger into it. It turned this like sickly red color. And then the 3rd bag was the ignore bag, which completely rotted. So there was some experimentation done with babies back in the day where they did not hold the babies for a certain amount of time, and the babies actually died. Even some of the ones that they decided to give touch to still passed away. But so the lesson here was kind of like, bad energy is better than no energy, but good energy. But what I believe is being affected is the water molecules in the rice are responding to your vibration, your frequency that you are at. And we are 70% water. We tell ourselves these stories in our head, and the water in our body responds to it. So that was one thing I wanted to share with everyone. It was another ayahuasca ceremony I'd done with Joe Decarlo. My first night of ayahuasca with him, and he does Shipibo shamanism, sings Icaros, beautiful, wonderful guy if you ever get a chance to sit with him. And I had this revelation the first night of ceremony, and then the next night I was like, I'm just gonna dedicate my ceremony to holding space for everyone else. I think I got what I needed the first night. And right beforehand, this girl's like, would you like some Florida water? And I'm like, sure. I didn't know what Florida water was, but she hands me a cup of Florida water, and she's like, it's Dartura Florida water. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So I drank it. I drank she's like, that's topical. You're not supposed to drink that. I'm like, okay, all right, well, too late now. So.
Where's your wallet now?
Yeah, so, and then I had this ayahuasca ceremony. I mean, they're all brilliant and beautiful, but this one was so next level and showed me so much. And I couldn't figure it out until the morning. I was like, the Dartura made the ayahuasca completely different for me. It's a powerful one. The alkaloid in it, it's called scopolamine. There's some documentaries on it. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it, but very powerful plants. So this is a waterfall at Fossil Creek. I don't know if anyone's been to Fossil Creek, the strawberry side. So I, post Dartura, I was like, okay, now I should probably start mixing psychedelics together. So I took LSD, went down this waterfall, and decided I was going to smoke DMT at the height of an LSD trip. And I've experienced, I think many of you have probably done psychedelics and maybe have experienced what's called time dilation, where a song that's 3 minutes long feels like it's 20 minutes, or a moment in time, or you look at the clock and you're like, it's only been an hour and it feels like days. I experienced something different than that. It was a speeding up of time, and the waterfall was running faster, and it was very loud. It was like an engine sped up, and I was like, okay, so we can create all these new things that people, I'm sure somebody else has experienced this, but it was interesting to me. Then I tried one night, it's called Jedi flipping, and that's where you take LSD, mushrooms, and MDMA. And I did that at this Phoenix Lights rave, and it was totally the wrong place to do it. Set and setting, I'll talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, it was just not the place that you want to experiment with something like that. So.
Well, why is that?
Yeah,
I mean, part of this community is about harm reduction too, right? Because I'd like to think what a a lot of what you're sharing is kind of like what to do, what not to do, and how we can keep ourselves safe, or some of the things
You know what?
for
I'm going to
yourself,
talk
right?
about that, all this stuff at the end. Absolutely, that's where that goes to at the end. So I promise I'll share some stuff. Yeah. So I had a friend in the community, and she knew like I'm experimenting with all these different combinations of things, and she's like, I have a friend that's interested in Silowaska, which is combining mushrooms with ayahuasca. And I'm like, okay, I'll talk to her. And I call the friend, and she's like, no. I'm interested in blue lotus and Syrian root. And I'm like, okay. So blue lotus, very common, is in drinks in this bar right here. I put it in my changa, I put it in my vape pens. It's always been a plant that's called to me a lot. But when I mixed it with an MAO inhibitor with Syrian root extracted, I tripped for 18 hours on it. And it was like very beautiful and like an awesome experience. And it felt like bits and pieces were almost like every psychedelic I've ever experienced in the trip. But it was interesting walking around. I had to work the next day, and like I'm tripping on a flower and just want to tell my coworkers. And, so
18 hours, that's a long.
it was that was my longest journey ever, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely less intense at the end, but the Blue Lotus, I think there's a lot to be experimented with there. Then it got me thinking, like, well, what does the Red Lotus do? And you have these different combinations of like, that's an acacia tree, and that's red ayahuasca vine. So there's different colors of the ayahuasca vine. You have black and red, different lotus flowers, and like the endless combinations of these things that can come together, and the creations that they create within your own psyche. There's this mystical thing out there that I've heard of. It's called thylomaloxine, and it's when you combine the 5-MeO-DMT of a bufo with mushrooms. Apparently, mushrooms create a whole new molecule when you do that.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yes. I mean, I haven't experimented with it yet. I even if I did make it, what dose are you getting? And it's very gray area, but I kind of think there may be something to it. So, in my journey, then I start to learn about Shipibo shamanism. So I'm sure you guys have seen patterns like this before. So basically what this is and what these images are is in the tribes, the Peruvian tribes in the Amazon, when a girl is born, the shaman puts eye drops in her eyes, and he can see if she has the sight. So these girls are raised, they're trained to do ayahuasca from a very young age. And they do what's called a dieta on a certain plant. And the girl will eat a very bland diet for days on end, and then take ayahuasca. And then when they go in, they see the vibrations that you're seeing, and then they weave them onto to blankets. And these are the Icaros that the shaman sings. So in traditional Shipibo shamanism, they don't give ayahuasca to sick people. They figure out what ailment they have and what plant is good for that ailment. The shaman wraps them in that blanket, eats that particular essence, and then takes the ayahuasca and sings the Icaros to them. So these plants have a vibration. It's visible. People can take it out. I don't know if anyone here has done DMT, and if you're doing a DMT experience, you hear this like, it's almost like a radio station you're tuning into. And I'm not a musician, but if I was, I feel like I could replicate some of these things I'm hearing. So this is the science is called cymatics, and basically these are plates with sand on them where they play different frequencies through the plates, and they make different designs. And it's very common. It affects fire, water, wind, everything. This, for instance, is a vitamin C molecule. This is vitamin C under a microscope. It's a very vibrational looking, and like it's a good thing. It looks healthy. It's got this feel to it, and everyone knows how good vitamin C is. Unfortunately, most of the vitamin C we get these days is extracted from black mold rather than fruit. But yeah. But you can see that like they had knowledge of this. They had knowledge of these cymatics way back when. These aren't accidental that the churches, the old cathedrals had these. And a lot of them have been taken out of the windows, and how they are in fruits. And even stars themselves, viewed through a Nikon P1000, have vibrational frequency to them. The flower of life, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this. These are buildings that are built off the frequencies of these things. And it's very interesting that like these people who have horse and buggy and know science knew all this stuff, right? All over the world, it's the same exact architecture. They have these giant bells all over the realm too, at one point. They said they had to take them all during World War I and World War II because they needed them for bullets. So this is the official story, but there was once upon a time where people tried to rebel the cities, and it was called a rebelling. So, some interesting stuff. So these are cymatic frequencies placed on top of each other. I wish I could have played the video for you. But this guy, he maps these things three-dimensionally, and you know, when you put one over the other, it creates a face. There's something inherently cymatic about our reality. Okay, so you're journeying and you're getting ready to journey, and I'd say the three things you have to take into account when you're going on a journey is the set, the setter, and the setting. So the set, let me just start off by telling you a story. I was selling mushrooms, I was 17 years old, and a friend, like a guy I knew in high school, asked me, he's like, hey, do you want to come out and ride quads with me and my friends? I was like, cool, yeah, I'll go. And I went, I ate mushrooms with these guys out in the woods. I didn't know where I was, I didn't know any of these people, and it was like the worst trip I ever had. Like I thought my heart was going to explode. And I can't even call it a bad trip, because through that trip, I learned about set and setting. Like, you want to be in an environment that is you feel comfortable in, with people you feel comfortable with, who aren't going to cause chaos, and just plan it out ahead. You know, and then if you want to trip with strangers at strange places later on down the road when you feel more comfortable with psychedelics, by all means, experiment. But when you're first getting into these things, be very cautious, you know? The next thing I would say is the setter. So you got your set. Your setter would be the medicines you're doing themselves, which you don't know, like a lot of times people don't know who's making their medicine, where it's coming from. And we're part of a community now that you can find reliable people who can vouch for other people's medicine. And you can find people, you know, there's a lot, you don't have to go to the jungle to do ayahuasca, you know? And you can find very good people who work with these medicines here. And, you know, there's a lot of horror stories out there about shamans that are bad. And if you're part of a community, then you really root those people out, and you can feel what people are about. And trusting your community is such a huge thing. And then the set is your internal vibration. So I would say mushrooms are great to eat when you're sad. They're a great way to get a reframe on your sadness. Smoking DMT when you're sad, do not recommend that. That is not a place you want to be. And you know, I have the luxury of experimenting with these things and knowing these things and experiencing them myself, but a lot of us don't, and we're diving in, you know? We're diving into not knowing the medicine and not knowing the shaman and not knowing what to expect. And your internal vibration is one thing, and then you have your external vibration. Like, where are you? Is it hot? Is it cold? Are you comfortable? And then the medicine itself and the administrators, their vibration. And these three things will make up your experience. So pre-integration is like really vital. and again, not allotted to everyone who's not part of a psychedelic society, you know, and they're out there just on their own, finding a documentary about something they saw, and, you know, so. Post integration, I think, is probably the biggest thing that I am an advocate for, is groups like this. Like, you're gonna go through this experience where you become oneness with everything, realize you're an infinite vibrational being experiencing itself as the here and now. How do you go back to work and work for Jeffrey Epstein's friends for fake digits on a computer screen after that, you know? And this is where you do that. This is where you connect with the community, you make friends, you grow, you try and create something better. And I see the community growing all over the place. I'm in rooms like this almost once, like 5 times a week. And there was a time where I never thought I'd sit in rooms like this. And I'm very grateful to be here tonight speaking with you guys. And you know, you guys are all doing good work, and good work, everybody. Yeah.
What does that mean, rooms like this?
Like-minded individuals who are just looking to better themselves and their community, you know, like rooms where people are thinking less with their heads and more with their hearts. And I'm in a lot of rooms like that these days. And
With a penchant for substantial help. Substantial.
yes, yes. And it's fun to talk about psychedelics. I love hearing about people's trips, and that was one of the things that I'll get into. Is like, this gave me a great idea. So there's this like database for like DMT trips, and like, do you know it? Do you know what it is?
You're talking about, well, there's a few.
Are there?
Yeah.
Because I've never
Arrowhead, have you
been.
been on Arrowhead?
Is Arrowhead? Is that what?
The DMT world? Is on there?
Okay, yeah. And they have like
Nexus too, yeah.
Nexus, yeah. So, yeah. I mean, like, there's just like endless.
There's so many.
There's so many, and it kind of got me wanting to start my own. So I bought a website called TrippyAdvisor. I think I'm gonna start like doing my own database. So thank you guys for the inspiration for that. Yeah. And then once you know you've done the medicine, like, just because you do medicine doesn't mean you're gonna stop being an asshole tomorrow. I've seen it make a lot of people stop being an asshole the next day, but it doesn't necessarily. It's not a cure. And I think it's important to also be, even though you're part of a community, you're part of this bigger thing, to keep your individuality within that, and you know, avoid groupthink, and you know, just always be authentically you. And then, you know, get involved in, you know, I do vibrational frequency bed like once a week. It's kind of one of the modalities. I love it, and it's like medicine without medicine. You know, you don't always have to. There's different ways to reset your body and your mind, and you don't always have to be in medicine. Yoga, meditation. There's the drum circles. Like, what I love about the community and the growing and these people I do psychedelics with is like, we leave these ceremonies, and then somebody's playing handpan all night, or flute, or drum, and then that makes you want to be able to share that energy when you're in ceremony with people. It's just amazing. And like, you know, I've kind of learned to sing a little bit, and I'm trying to learn the handpan, but you know, bring things like, to be able to bring things back to the community and back to the trips for other people is so awesome. I can only imagine like how advanced it's going to be in 20 years from now, all these people doing this and learning these different instruments and healing methods, and it's an exciting future. And then the work is never done, you know. There's no quick fix, and even I have fallen into a place where of abuse with psychedelics. I had lost a girlfriend, and it was very pretty, and I liked being there in that realm. I didn't like being in this realm. But eventually, luckily with most psychedelics, they kick you out eventually. There's a built-in mechanism that will not allow you to stay there. And like that's a lesson too, to like understand that this is the kind of a world you live in most of your existence. If you're having a human experience, take the things you learned from here and bring them back there and apply them to that. So, kind of, that's my trippy advisors I'm really excited about starting. I want to also be able to advise people, like, hey, what are you looking for? What are you trying to do? What is the right modality for you? And like, can we find you like medicine people for the thing you're looking for? One of the things I've learned in my journey is the DMT pens I created. I can't get very deep on them. My intention was to make it more efficient, but I can't myself get very deep on them. But there's a novelty to them, and I like to think that once if someone hits a pen a few times, then when someone offers them the full deal, they'll be like, yeah, sure, I've done DMT before. But I've seen people pass it around, and even my own mother, and they told me their anxiety is gone. And I'm like, okay. And once you hear it over a half dozen times, just random people who hit a DMT pen telling you their anxiety is gone, there's something to that. So what do you do with that information? There's a multi-million-dollar benzo industry that would destroy, right? So I don't know where I'm going with that, but yeah, so next slide. All right, I guess that's my last slide. I want to thank everyone for letting me speak tonight. I really do appreciate it. I'm trying to organize an ayahuasca retreat here in Arizona. It's called Aryavapa Canyon in January and February. It's with a group called Ayahuasca Soul Tribe, and I don't know if anyone's ever been to Aryavapa Canyon. It's this amazing spot.
My Gila monster lives there now, so be careful.
Okay, all right, be careful. Yeah, this is an amazing spot, an amazing group of people. There's some, in January and February, we're doing a 3-day retreat there. Just beautiful people. We do ayahuasca in the daytime one time, and that's pretty amazing because not a lot of people do that. Yeah, so I just want to thank everyone for tonight, and yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.